Okay, so this is what we had started up with. Yeah, final accounts of manufacturers. I had told you the reason behind why we make a final accounts. Yeah, because of the periodic matching concept, which says that if there is a business income, there has to be a related business expense as well. So this is called as the periodic matching concept, because of which we prepare final accounts. Now, this year onwards, you are going to learn final accounts of manufacturers. Okay. Now, who is a manufacturer? A person who converts his raw material into finished goods. Okay. And then I have told you this concept about cost price plus profit is equal to selling price. So this cost price is nothing but my total cost. Okay. And this year in final accounts, uh, trading P&L and balance sheet. Apart from that, there is one more new ledger that we are going to prepare is the manufacturing account. Okay. Then we had started with expenditures and receipts. Yeah. What do you mean by an expenditure? What do you mean by receipts? So expenditure is what? It is payment made by a businessman for obtaining goods and services. That is when you purchase your goods and services or during its investing activity. What is investing activity? Money invested into purchase of fixed assets is known as investing activity. Then what is a receipt? Receipt means amount received by a businessman for supplying of goods and services. That is sale of finished goods. And also it includes money received through financing activity. What is financing activity? Money obtained through taking loans. Okay, obtaining money as a capital or taken as loan from bank. Okay, sale of asset is also a category to financing activity. Okay. Then I told you about expenditures being divided as capital and revenue expenditures. Capital expenditure highlight is what? It is non-recurring in nature. Revenue expenditure highlight is it is regular in nature or recurring in nature with respect to its business operations. Okay, and capital expenditure is reflected balance sheet asset side. Okay, and what do you talk about? Revenue expenditure is reflected manufacturing debit side or P&L account debit side as the expense category may be. Okay, then capital expenditures like sale of asset that is taken in balance sheet asset side and subtracted from your particular fixed assets. But if you are taking a loan, okay, and capital, you're raising your capital, then it will be balance sheet liability side. Okay, yeah. Then recurring receipts, capital receipts, I told you. Then recurring receipts are what? Revenue receipts, money which you get through sale of finished goods. Okay, yeah. So it is reflected trading account credit side or P&L account credit side. Okay, like interest received, it can be bad debts recovery, all such expense, all such incomes. Okay, am I clear till here to everyone? Okay, fine. Yeah. Then I had given you these few examples where I had told you how to identify a capital expenditure or revenue expenditure. Okay, yeah, and a revenue receipt or a capital receipt. Right. Now today we are going to do a few more examples in there. Okay. So this is the theory part of revenue receipts and capital receipts, which I will send across to you. Yeah, this is what I have explained also. Yeah. Now coming on to this, now along with this today, I will also teach you a new concept called as deferred revenue expenditure. But first, let us go have a quick brush up through this question. Question number one, it's on your screen. Just check. State whether the following are capital or revenue. Give reasons for the same. Okay. First, custom duty paid on raw material purchased. Okay. So it's a revenue expenditure. Why? Because raw material purchased is a recurring business activity. Okay. See, students, the first thing you have to see when you're identifying the capital revenue expenditure is that whether money is coming in or going out. This is the first thing you're going to see. If the money is going out, that means it's an expense, it's an expenditure. Then which expenditure it is, whether it is capital or whether it is revenue expenditure. Then you have to categorize it up. Okay, yeah. So custom duty paid, you're paying it means money is going out. So it's an expenditure. Now, which expenditure is this? It is a revenue expenditure. Why it is a revenue expenditure? Because raw material purchase is a recurring business activity. एज अ मैन्युफैक्चरर तुम्हारा काम ही है बाइंग एंड सेलिंग ऑफ गुड्स. जब आप या तो जब आप गुड्स बना रहे हो तो तभी सबसे पहले रॉ मटेरियल आप परचेज करते हो. सो any expense which you incur while purchasing your raw material, it adds to the cost of the raw material. Okay, it increases the cost of the raw material, and so it is a revenue expenditure. The next one, wages paid to carpenter for making furniture. Okay, now here, yeah, making furniture. Furniture making is what? Building of an asset, making of an asset. Okay, yeah. तो तुमने wages दिया किसको? Carpenter को फर्नीचर बनाने के लिए. तो ऑब्वियसली इट विल इंक्रीज द कॉस्ट ऑफ योर फर्नीचर. सो इट्स अ कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. डू यू मेक फर्नीचर्स एवरी ईयर, एवरी मंथ? नो. और ऑन डेली बेसिस? नो. यू डू इट once in 5 years, or not even once in 5 years, once in 10 years, or once in 15 years, like this. Okay, yeah. So it is non-recurring in nature, and so it is a capital expenditure. Next is sale of old machinery. Okay, so whether you sell a new machine or an old machine, whatever the case may be, you're selling an asset, money is coming inside, it's a receipt, and it is non-recurring in nature. You do not sell assets every day, every month, or every year. Okay, it is done once in 10 years, once in 15 years, when the life of the asset is completed or finished. That time you sell the machine. Okay, so it is a capital receipt. Then term loan taken from bank. Okay, term loans taken from bank. Okay, so loan taken means money is coming in, so obviously it's revenue, correct? Then which revenue is this? Do you take loans every day, every month, every year? No, again it's non-recurring in nature, so it's a capital receipt. Okay, now if other question mein hota loan given, loan given, so when you give loan, money goes out, so it's an expenditure. Do you give loan every day? No, obviously. So in such cases, loan given will become what? Capital expenditure. Okay, because it is non-recurring in nature. Next, commission received on sales. The word received is there, matlab paisa andar aaya hai. So it's a receipts, yes. And sale is a regular business activity, recurring business activity, yes. So commission for the same is also recurring in nature. So this is revenue receipt. Okay. Brokerage paid on purchase of land. Land is what? Fixed assets. Okay. Purchase किया मतलब पैसा बाहर गया, तो it's an expenditure. Yes. And do you keep purchasing land every year, every month, every day? No. Right. So it is non-recurring in nature, and so it is a capital expenditure. So when you pay brokerage on purchase of land, it adds to the cost of the land. It increases the cost price of the land. Okay. Anything that increases the cost price of an asset is capital expenditure in nature. Am I clear about this? Is this clear to everyone? Is it clear to everyone? Okay, fine. Next, come to this question number 2 or example number 2. Okay. Now, before coming to this discussing, you can see a highlight at number 4, that is deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, so let me first explain you about deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, now what did I tell you? Expenditures is divided into two: capital expenditure and revenue expenditure. Okay, so when a transaction has features of capital as well as revenue expenditure, that is known as deferred revenue expenditure. I repeat, when a transaction has features of both capital expenditure and revenue expenditure, then it is termed as deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, so capital expenditure is what? Where it is reflected, balance sheet asset side. And revenue expenditure, where is it reflected? Either it is reflected manufacturing account debit side or P&L account debit side. Okay, that means a deferred revenue expenditure will be reflected in two places. It will be reflected balance sheet asset side and also P&L account debit side or manufacturing account debit side. Okay, अब ये कैसे possible है? मैम आप बोल रहे हो दोनों में जाएगा, कैसे जाएगा मैम? Okay, now I'll give an example. Say advertisement. Okay, I'm giving an example of advertisement. Now advertisement में क्या हो रहा है? Say I am paying advertisement के लिए I hire say famous personality I hire. Say I hire Hrithik Roshan for advertisements, and Hrithik Roshan charges 2 crores for an ad. Okay, fine. Okay, chalo. My net profit is 5 crores. Out of 5 crores, I will give away 2 crores to Hrithik Roshan. So 3 crores is balance with me. So when I will pay my income tax, I will pay my income tax on this 3 crores. Okay? Yeah. I will pay income tax on 3 crores. Now what happens here is, इनकम टैक्स बोलता है अरे 2 करोड़ आपने ऋतिक रोशन को दे दिया तो टैक्स आपने कम भरा, 3 करोड़ पे ही टैक्स भरा. अगर मैं ऋतिक रोशन को 2 करोड़ नहीं देती तो मैं टैक्स किस पे भरती? 5 CR पे. तो इससे फायदा किसको हो रहा है? इनकम टैक्स को हो रहा है ऑब्वियसली. तो व्हाट इनकम टैक्स डज, इनकम टैक्स कैटेगराइज दीज टाइप ऑफ एक्सपेंसेस एज हेवी एक्सपेंसेस. इनकम टैक्स बोलता है ये जो 2 करोड़ आपने advertisement में spend किया, these are heavy expenditures. Okay, so they don't allow heavy expenditures to be written off in 1 year. You have to write off an heavy expenditure minimum 2 years, maximum 7 years. ठीक है. Now income tax tells me, madam, आप ये जो heavy expenditure है advertisement ऋतिक रोशन वाला, आप इसको please 4 साल में write off कीजिए. So I have to write off this 2 crores in 4 years. Okay, so 2 crores divided by 4 years. So every year का कितना आएगा? 50 lakhs. Okay, 50 lakhs will come, right? Every year का. So like this, 50 lakhs first year, 50 lakhs second year, 50 lakhs third year, 50 lakhs 4 years, like this. Okay, now मेरा profit कितना था? 5 CRs. 5 CRs में से मैं 50 lakhs minus करूंगी तो कितना हो जाएगा? 4.5 CR. ओके, नाउ अब इनकम टैक्स को फायदा हो रहा है ना. पहले मैं 3 करोड़ पे टैक्स भर रही थी, अब मैं 4.5 करोड़ पे टैक्स भर रही हूँ. इज दिस क्लियर टू एवरीवन? दिस इज नोन एज अ deferred revenue expenditure. The expense is paid in the current year, but the benefit of the same arises in future. Am I clear about this? Is this concept clear? Okay, so this is a deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, अब ये कैसे रिफ्लेक्ट होगा फाइनल अकाउंट्स में? डेफर्ड रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर कैसे रिफ्लेक्ट होगा फाइनल अकाउंट्स में? क्या ये जो 50 lakhs है ये मैं पीएनएल अकाउंट में दिखाऊंगी डेबिट साइड. ओके, राइट. और ये जो 4.5 CRs है ये मैं कहाँ दिखाऊंगी? बैलेंस शीट एसेट साइड अंडर प्रीपेड एक्सपेंसेस. इज दैट क्लियर? बराबर ना? Did you understand? So now did you understand what was I trying to say? Deferred revenue expenditure में, yeah, it has features of capital expenditure and revenue expenditure both. So how features of capital expenditure I recorded in balance sheet asset side under prepaid expense, and how revenue expenditure I recorded on P&L account debit side. Okay, so it is having features of both. Am I clear about this? This is known as a deferred revenue expenditure. And how will you recognize this in exam? Yeah, they will give you the word to, I mean, like expenses paid for 4 years, expenses paid for 3 years, expenses paid for 2 years, like this. Or they will use the word heavy expenditure. Okay. So let us come to this question. Question number 2. Purchase of old machinery for cash 1 lakh. Okay. परचेज किया मतलब पैसा बाहर जा रहा है तो इट्स एन एक्सपेंडिचर. यस, इट्स एन एक्सपेंडिचर. एंड नेक्स्ट, purchase of asset is a non-recurring transaction of the business, so it is capital expenditure. Next, interest paid rupees 15,000 on bank overdraft. Okay, interest paid, you are paying it now, and if money is going out, so it's an expenditure. Yes. Okay, interest is a regular business activity. Yes, so it is revenue expenditure. Next, paid audit fees rupees 10,000. Payment है ना? Yes, so it is an expenditure. कौन सा है? Audit fees you have to pay every year. If you have to audit your book of accounts, you have to pay to the CA audit fees. So it's revenue in nature, recurring. Next, paid fees 6,000 to the association for 3 years. So you have joined some association जिसको तुमने 6,000 रुपया दिया है और 3 साल का तुमने दे दिया है. Okay, so this is a deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, you have paid it in the current year, but benefit is there for the coming 3 years. Okay, yeah, so this is called as deferred. Deferred means defer का meaning होता है future, postpone. Yeah. Provide depreciation 20,000 on furniture. Depreciation is charged every year, right? Yeah. So it is a revenue expenditure. A paid insurance premium, it's a revenue expenditure because paying insurance, renewing your insurance premium is a regular business activity. Next, this one. Legal expenses 3,000 in connection with collection of debts. Okay. Collection of debts is a regular business activity. क्योंकि अगर आपने credit sales किया है तो obviously bad debts होगा तो bad debts को मतलब debts को recover करने के लिए if you are incurring any legal expenses for it, it's a regular business activity, so revenue expenditure. Premium 25,000 on issue of shares. When you issue shares, money comes inside. So it's a receipt. And do you issue shares every year, every month? No, it is done once in the lifetime of the company. So it is non-recurring in nature. So it's a capital receipt. Dividend and interest 10,000 on investments. Okay. Investment पे आपको पैसा मिल रहा है. So this is an income. So it's a receipt. And obviously it's a dividend and interest are annual activities, yearly activities, recurring in nature. So it's a revenue receipt. Sales tax collected from purchaser of goods. Okay, so ultimately you are going to, you have collected tax for goods collection. So this is receipts. It's a receipt, obviously, income है, पैसा अंदर आया, receipts, and sales tax is collected on goods. So goods, buying and selling of goods is a regular business activity. So this is also a revenue receipt. Cost of carrying out an experiment to modify a product. Okay. Okay, this is paisa diya hai, so it's an expenditure. It is a regular business activity to keep modifying your product or to add some new features to your product, to give some existing new color or existing redesigning your product with a different shape. Okay, yeah, or with a different color or with a different fragrance, like this. So it's a regular business activity. Repairs to keep the machinery in good working condition. So this is regular machine को repairs maintain करने के लिए you are incurring this expense. Obviously, so it is a regular business activity. So revenue expenditure. आपके घर पे AC होगा, कार होगी आपके पास, तो कार is an asset. उसको रेगुलरली सर्विसिंग के लिए देना पड़ता है, रिपेयर्स एंड मेंटेनेंस बोलते हैं उसको. यस, इट्स अ रेगुलर एक्टिविटी, साल में 2-3 बार करना पड़ता है. सेम फॉर AC. यस, right? So it's revenue in nature. It's a revenue expenditure. Cost of a lathe machine. Now, whichever machine you purchased, you have purchased an asset, it's a capital expenditure. Next, fourth one, state with reasons where the following items are capital or revenue. Fine. Received 2 lakhs on issue of equity share capital. Received means matlab it's a receipt. And as I told you, you cannot issue shares every year, every day. It's a non-recurring, not regular business activity. So it is capital receipt. Paid 5,000 towards excise duty on goods manufactured. ठीक है, एक्साइज ड्यूटी पे किया ना, वो भी गुड्स पे, बाइंग एंड सेलिंग एक्टिविटी, तो इट इज रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. Purchase 4% government securities of 40,000 and 39,000. Purchase किया मतलब पैसा बाहर गया, तो it's an expenditure, yes. Okay, and it's capital expenditure because it is investments into government bonds. Okay. Paid 2,000 for erection charges of new machine. आपने नया एसेट खरीदा और उसके इंस्टॉलेशन के लिए आपने 2,000 रुपए भरे. Any expense which you incur in connection to purchase of an asset, it is increasing the cost of the asset, so it is capital expenditure. Then annual subscriptions paid 2,000 for trade association. Now look at this word, annual is there, yearly है, तो revenue expenditure. Okay, अगर सेम होता सब्सक्रिप्शन पेड 6,000 फॉर 2 years. फॉर 2 years बोला ना, प्रीपेड है ना, बस इट बिकम्स डेफर्ड. Freight paid 5,000. Freight is paid on what? At the time of purchase of raw material. Okay, so it's a regular business activity, revenue expenditure. Purchase motor car for 3 lakhs rupees. So purchase of an asset, it's a capital expenditure. Am I clear? Is it clear till here? Are you people understanding what I'm saying? A sum of rupees 10,000 paid for obtaining a license to carry on a business. Okay. Now, yeah, here a student can have two things in mind. He can say, ma'am, it is a revenue expenditure, and some students may say it is a capital expenditure. Okay, fine. Now, it is obviously it is not a revenue expenditure. I'll tell you the reason also behind it. It is a capital expenditure because आपको बिजनेस स्टार्ट करना है. जब आप बिजनेस स्टार्ट करते हो तो बिजनेस चलाने के लिए लाइसेंस की जरूरत होती है. बिना लाइसेंस के आप बिजनेस नहीं कर सकते. यू हैव टू ऑब्टेन अ लाइसेंस. ओके, सो फॉर कैरी एंड लाइसेंस वंस इन लाइफ टाइम मिलता है. अब आप बोलोगे मैम हर साल रिन्यू होता है. लाइसेंस को हर साल रिन्यू करना पड़ता है. तो रिन्यूअल ऑफ लाइसेंस फीस इज रेवेन्यू इन नेचर. Okay, renewal of license fees is revenue expenditure. Why? Because every year you have to renew, pay some minimum amount to renew your license. But जो license मिलता है वो business का जो span है एक ही बार मिलता है. घड़ी घड़ी आपको license नहीं मिलता है. Okay, is this clear? So it's a non-recurring business activity and so it is a capital expenditure. But अगर same sum में होता pay 10,000 for renewal of license to carry on a business, then this would have been a revenue expenditure. Okay, am I clear? Is this clear? समझ में आया? Why this transaction is not a revenue expenditure and it's a capital expenditure? Okay, yeah, great. Next, a fine of rupees 505 paid for contravening municipal rules and regulations. Revenue expenditure, municipality, yeah. Then productive wages paid, na, recurring in nature. Every month you pay, right? Yeah. So revenue expenditure. Umbrellas were purchased for the employees at the cost of rupees 3,000. Revenue expenditure. Okay. Yeah. Giving away umbrellas, uniform, Diwali sweets. Okay. These are all recurring business activity. I mean, these are expenses done by the businessmen in connection टू बाइंग एंड सेलिंग ऑफ गुड्स. अब तुम बोलोगे एम्प्लॉयज को अम्ब्रेला देना, एम्प्लॉयज को रेनकोट देना, एम्प्लॉयज को गम बूट्स देना ड्यूरिंग रेनी सीजन्स, और एम्प्लॉयज को बैग्स देना, एम्प्लॉयज को यूनिफॉर्म देना. ओके, या दीज आर ऑल पार्ट एंड पार्सल ऑफ व्हाट? एम्प्लॉय कॉस्ट. ओके, yeah, you have to incur these costs as per the as per the norms of the company. फैक्ट्रीज एक्ट में बोला गया है कि ये कॉस्ट इनकम होना चाहिए. तो कोई ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस देते हैं अपने एम्प्लॉयज को, तो इट्स रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. इट इज नॉट कैपिटल एक्सपेंडिचर. दे डोंट गिव वंस इन 10 years. Every year then they make it a practice. Okay, yeah. A second hand typewriter was purchased for 1,200 and 500 was spent on bringing it to working condition. Whether it's a new asset or it's a second hand asset, you have purchased an asset, you have paid expenses for getting the same, it's capital expenditure. Okay. Sold 4% government securities, rupees 1,40,000. Sold na, मतलब पैसा अंदर आया. It's a receipt. It's a capital receipt. Okay, because we don't keep selling investments every day, every year. Okay, it's not on a recurring basis. आप invest इसलिए करते हो ताकि आपका पैसा 5 years, 10 years के लिए सेफ रहे और उसके बदले में आपको इंटरेस्ट मिले. हाँ, बट इन्वेस्टमेंट में जो इंटरेस्ट मिलेगा, या दैट इज रिकरिंग रिसीट्स, दैट इज रेवेन्यू रिसीट्स. बट इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है तुमने ये 1,40,000 का, फॉर दैट इज कैपिटल रिसीट. ओके, और अगर इस पे आपको इंटरेस्ट मिल रहा है, जैसे सम में दिया है 4%, तो 4% आपका इंटरेस्ट है ऑन 1,40,000, सो दैट इज रेवेन्यू एक्सपेंडिचर. sorry, revenue receipt. Okay, but this 1,40,000 is capital receipt. Preliminary expenses paid 42,000. Yeah. Now this can be like, you can take it as revenue expenditure also, and you can assume it to be a deferred revenue expenditure also. I'll tell you the reason behind this. If you have done OC and SP in your 11th and 12th standard, तो आपको याद होगा at the time of incorporation of the company, there are certain expenses which is incurred by the company. Incorporation expenses, which is known as preliminary expenses, which is compulsory. Okay, yeah, like registering your company, getting license for the company, all these things. So इससे क्या होता है, when you incur those preliminary expenses, okay, आपको brokerage charges भी देने पड़ते हैं initially when you are into the stage, initial stage of incorporation of company. तो जब तक आपका कंपनी रजिस्टर्ड नहीं हो जाता, आपको बहुत सारे खर्चे करने पड़ते हैं to get it registered. Okay, yeah. So income tax does not allow you to write off those expenses in 1 year. Why? Because you're a new company ना, आपके पास hardly कुछ profit होगा, right? तो income tax आपको allow नहीं करती है कि इतने मतलब ये preliminary expenses को आप खर्च कर दो. I mean write off कर दो एक साल में. Okay, so these preliminary expenses are necessary, which is incurred for that particular accounting period. But the benefit of this preliminary expenses you get it in future. जैसे कंपनी को रजिस्टर करना, इट इज कंपलसरी एज पर कंपनीज, सो यू रजिस्टर इट. ओके, या बट द बेनिफिट आपका उसको आगे जाके मिलेगा. ओके, भले ही आपने वो खर्चा अभी किया होगा, बट बेनिफिट उसका आपको फ्यूचर में मिलेगा. ओके, सो दैट इज व्हाई the correct, the most appropriate answer, preliminary expenses paid, is deferred revenue expenditure. Okay, if you look into the incorporation part of the company, carriage outward, that it's paid on finished goods. It's a revenue expenditure, it's recurring in nature. Import duty paid on purchase of computer. आपने computer purchase किया ना, purchase of an asset, any expense in connection to purchase of an asset is capital in nature. So it's a capital expenditure. Receive 5 lakhs on issue of 5% debentures. Okay, आपने debentures issue किया और आपको पैसा मिला, मतलब this is loan taken. Okay, yeah, debentures are as good as loan, right? Yeah, बैंक से लोन नहीं लिया, आपने debentures issue किया, ठीक है, और पैसा जमा किया, ठीक है, तो दिस इज कैपिटल रिसीट. पैसा अंदर आया ना, इट्स अ रिसीट, एंड इट यू कैन नॉट इशू डिबेंचर्स एवरी ईयर और एवरी मंथ. इट इज डन once in 5 years, once in 10 years like this. Okay, legal expenses 6,000 paid in connection with purchase of land, capital expenditure, because it's a non-recurring expense, purchase of land. We don't keep purchasing assets. Okay, so any expense in connection to purchase of asset is also capital in nature. Then repairing charges rupees 15,000 paid for keeping machine in good working condition. As I told you, repairs and maintenance, okay, is a regular business activity, recurring business activity. So it is revenue expenditure. Okay, am I clear? Is it clear? Okay, so is this concept of revenue expenditure, capital expenditure, revenue receipts, capital receipts, deferred revenue clear to everyone? Okay, so next lecture we will look into deferred revenue receipts also. Deferred revenue expenditure होता है, तो deferred revenue receipt भी होता है, but very rare case.